Welcome back to Beyond the Blueprint, presented by MP360 Design and Build. I'm your host, Paige Moses, and today I have with me Nicole Curry. BRR Architecture's Nicole Curry is the lead multifamily principal. She'll discuss her career, journey, the future of the multifamily design, and key trends shaping Kansas City's development. We'll explore her path from founding Studio A to leading multifamily projects at BRR, her approach to working with developers, and how BRR designs multifamily housing that fits the city's evolving needs. Nicole will also share insights on adaptive reuse, cost-efficient design strategies, and navigating city regulations. So please help me welcome Nicole Curry.
Hello. Thank you.
How do you feel?
Doing good.
Is this your first podcast you've been on?
It is my first podcast I have been on.
There we go. Well, it's only my second, so we're really close. We'll get through this together. It will be fun. But I want to thank you to Katie Young, who helped me get set up with you, and I'm super excited to have you on and share a bunch of awesome information and key insights about our industry and the market here at Kansas City. So thank you.
You're welcome. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to do my first podcast.
You know, there's a first for everything. So hopefully this will be a good experience for you that you'll want to do it again. But we'll see. We'll see. We will see. So let's just get into it. And I want to start with you. So when you first started out in your career, what were you doing? Where did you go to school? How did you get into this industry?
So I was my brother and I are yin and yang. He did not know what he wanted to do for the longest time. I knew from I was 6 years old, I wanted to do architecture. My family's in construction, so I kind of grew up around it. And at times my dad would be like, interior design? I'm like, nope, architecture. And we'd look at different paths, but architecture was always the way I wanted to go. So I went to K-State for their program, studied in Italy for a semester, which I absolutely loved. And it was kind of funny because when I came out and was looking for a job, I knew I wanted to do single family was really what I wanted to do. And nothing to do with multifamily. It was actually the last part of architecture I wanted to do.
You're like, I love my job, guys. I'm here now.
I do love it. I really, really do. But from my family being in construction, I got taken to so many different multifamily job sites that my dad would be looking at, and most of them were garden style apartments, and a lot of it was a rinse and repeat. What I didn't realize, one, multifamily's come a long way from just garden style with the wrap projects, the podium projects, and everything else we do. I've realized now that it's just a really cool giant puzzle that is how can we fit great spaces and make it as efficient as possible. So cost per square foot is good, but people are getting exactly what they want. Yeah. So I've discovered I really like that puzzle to solve.
It's like high-end problem solving.
Yes. So when I started off, I was with a firm that did single family and multifamily, and I started doing a little bit of single family and then merged into the multifamily side. I was there for about 13 years. I really enjoyed it there, but I was looking for kind of what was that next step for me. And where I never thought I wanted to go out on my own, it kind of presented itself in a way that I was like, I can do this. I had a client that was, kind of coming with me. I found some other new clients. I was able to stay doing some of the single family things while keeping multifamily, and then also got to do a ton of project types I'd never even dreamt of. I did a couple different restaurants, a comedy club remodel, like I said, some single family, and it was great. It was also a lot of stress because it was, 3 people. I'm having to do all of it. So I am the accountant, I am legal, I am the architect. I'm trying to figure out how do we keep on top of our game with 3D renderings when there's just the 3 of us and we don't have a dedicated rendering team and a dedicated this or that. So I got to know Mariah Myers, who's now our CEO at BRR, and I started by consulting with them on the multifamily piece of some mixed use projects.
That's super cool.
Yeah, and that started, and then it kind of went from there to why don't we combine? How can, it helps me in a great way because now I have this, huge breadth of resources and other people and, everything that BRR has, but I keep getting to do what I love.
Yeah, definitely lightened your load.
Very much
That's
so.
Definitely helpful. Okay, so let's get into BRR Architecture. What can you tell us about them, their culture, your company, and what they do for Kansas City?
I love being at BRR. It is great. It's funny because like the first firm I was at was, kind of a mid-size, and then it was a firm of 3, and now I'm at a firm of almost 300.
You've had it
so
all.
it's very, very different. I have it all. BRR is nationwide, but we're headquartered in Kansas City. And that to me is great. And we have such a good culture. It's about the people. I think our favorite event is we do a big thing at the American Royal Barbecue, and everyone comes out. It's, I would say, more fun than our holiday party. Granted, our holiday party is fun, but it's just a great culture. We're about learning and teaching. And I know that people have had to move, and other people at our office have helped. Like that's just, the camaraderie we have there, and it's great. I also love, we do so many different types of project types, kind of dedicated teams to all of them: retail, grocer, hospitality, obviously mixed use, multifamily, convenience stores. So we have quite a variety. So what's also great is I do a lot of work with our larger developments, 30 acres and such. And so if there's something that's not in my wheelhouse that's going into that, we've got it in-house. So there's a lot of collaboration that gets to go on.
I love that. That's amazing. Is that your favorite part about BRR, is the collaboration, or what is your favorite part?
I would say it's the collaboration and the people.
Yeah.
We get to have a lot of fun, and it's fun doing architecture. Like we said, it's like you don't remember the easy times. You remember when you're in the trenches and you're trying to figure it all out, and you get that aha moment and it all comes together.
Yeah, I love that. Well, let's go back just a little bit about your first job. And I want to know how it kind of shaped your career into what it is today. And I know you kind of did something out on your own a little bit. So give us some insights into that. Studio A.
Yeah, so I would definitely say I had some great mentors at my first job. So much of it was working with the client and knowing the client, and it kind of got me to where I am now. So my philosophy is like, this isn't my building, this is your building. So how am I taking and helping you realize your dream? Because when we did single family homes, and some very high end single family homes, like that's what it was. This wasn't my house, it's yours. So I'm having to help you figure out all those things you want and get them into a way that works cohesively. And so, hard work, determination, all of those things I really gained from that. And then going out on my own, oh my word, I learned so many things. My husband also is a small business owner, and I remember calling him, or I was calling or texting him one day, and I'm like, who do you use for insurance? Like, who do you use for this? What's this? He's like, do you need my rubber band supplier? He's like, what else can I give you here?
What else do you need? My whole business plan? Sure.
Yeah. And most of it was like contacts, because we're in a similar field, but it was just kind of funny because all of these things that I'm like, oh, got to do that now. So it was, and I knew other people who had started their own business, and they're like, you will learn more in those first 6 months than you've learned, in your entire career. And it's not necessarily about architecture. It's about just building a business and, being a good boss, and then like coming around to hiring people and figuring that out and all of those things. And I loved it too, because I got some really great clients that came with me, and then others throughout the process of that. And I loved also just learning and doing a couple new project types, especially with some of the restaurant work that we got to do.
So how has your process evolved over the years? So you were talking about how, which we kind of do the same when we're building somebody else's space, we want to know exactly how they're living in that space. So being in that multifamily market, how are you putting yourself in in their shoes and making sure that the space is livable for them and their needs? Has it evolved over the years, and people's needs evolved over the years?
I would definitely say needs have evolved. And, communities that we would do before was all about the unit, and the units were larger. Some of those spaces were larger, and the common areas were very small. There was a small clubhouse. There wasn't a lot going on with that. And there's been a transition to, the micro units, the studios, and having that space become smaller, but that'll then giving more amenities. So you were really living throughout the community and not just in your unit.
That's interesting. That's super interesting. So are you seeing that more in Kansas City's market right now, or just now starting to happen?
No, We've been seeing that in the market. And it's actually funny because it had gone down, that it had gone a lot smaller, and we're seeing it rebound a little bit to become larger units. And I think some of that has to do with just the change of how people have worked since COVID and having more work from home and that flexible schedule. People are looking for that space. So we actually are seeing, where we would see for a while 2-bedroom units were really hard to rent. We're actually seeing more of those renting. So in a lot of our developments, in addition to that, potentially looking at, do we add more 2-bedrooms? Do we have a dedicated workspace? We're also seeing not just co-working spaces, but what are like touchdown spots that we can put all throughout a community, extra large hallways to the pool corridor area, to the pool. Can we add some tables, have some plugins, and have it that someone could just, kind of sit down there and not have to go all the way to a co-working space.
That definitely makes sense. And I like the way that has evolved. So there is more of a sense of community in a space that you're living, and it's not just a space you're living, I want to kind of give our audience a good idea of what your specific role is at BRR.
Yes. So I'm one of our vice presidents, and I directly oversee our mixed use and multifamily work. So a lot of what I'm doing is out in front of clients, helping with the front end design of projects. Although I really like to stay with them throughout the entire course of those projects. And at BRR, mixed use, multifamily, and hospitality are all together in one studio, which is great because there's a lot of similarities between the two. So we'll pull from each other's, project types and look at some different things. So, and that's something that I've kind of learned more as I've been at BRR and gotten into more, is not just how does a space work for the tenant who lives there day in and day out, but what is that arrival? What does that feel? And how does it make you feel like you would feel going into a nice hotel? And so we've started looking into that more, and I really like what that has done for our projects.
Everybody deserves that feeling. That's awesome. How would you describe BRR's approach to the multifamily sector?
Collaborative. We, as we said, it's, your project, but we look at not just what is the owner looking for, what does the owner want, but what do we see the need is for the surrounding community? What are the community connections that we want to draw from? What is some of those design features that we want to play off of, not copy or mimic, but enhance, play off of, and work with? John Gripka is our director of design, and he and I work really closely on this front end part of it. And it's so much fun looking at what's the surroundings and, what exactly are we doing from this. I remember on one project when he said, so I'm thinking trains. And I had a very similar look on my face to I'm thinking trains.
Okay.
And he explained it, and it was talking about, if you look at the passenger train, and it's like there's the industrial piece of it that's down below that is what's moving people along, but it's this very nice, elegant train car. And how do you mix those two in a building design? I was like, okay, that's really cool.
Yeah, that's super unique way of viewing it. I love that. That's awesome.
And so things like that. So we try to pull from the surroundings and from stuff to kind of help to give this building its own identity, but still fit within the surroundings.
That's amazing. So what would you say sets BRR apart when it comes to working with developers on multifamily projects?
We've got definitely the design expertise, but we also have the bandwidth that we can really pull together what you need and timeframes needed. Obviously we always want to have a cohesively designed project that is, all the documents are put together well, but we're able to meet some deadlines that others may not be able to, but we're also able to still keep design on the forefront while doing so.
So I know we've kind of talked about the spatial awareness and spatial changes evolving for multifamily units, but what other trends are you seeing in that multifamily sector, especially in the Kansas City market? Any trends or different besides the use of space?
A lot of what we're seeing is, especially with, costs going up, is how are we being almost good stewards of our clients' money. How are we making these projects pencil? So
it's a big investment. That's what we like to talk about too, is we like to educate, you know?
But how can we use the same everyday materials, but do it in a way that has, you know, a different look or a different feel or a different draw for the client that helps set them apart from other developments. I mean, we're seeing a lot of cross connection between spaces. How can something be used for multiple uses? So as it used to be, clubhouses were getting larger. With cost of construction now, we're trying to find ways to get the same amount of work and spaces in, but in a kind of a tighter space. So we'll see things like golf simulators. We're putting those in more and more projects, but also let's not just put them in a room by themselves. How can they also be used to view a football game or some other sort of event and have that use to it? In some of our developments, we have a space, kind of a smaller community room space that could be used to rent out for a baby shower, or a birthday party, or things like that, which is also great if you have a smaller apartment and are not wanting to host in your unit.
Are you guys seeing great reception to all of these new additions in your multifamily units?
From what I know, yes. The hard part for me is once the project's done, I don't always know how those things go.
Do you like that part, or does it kind of like, do you ever follow back up and want to go back out and see how it's going? Or
what's great is so many of our clients are repeat clients that we get to follow up. We get to go back and see how those things are going, and are those spaces being used? How is that working? And another space that we're starting to add is also podcast rooms.
That's a genius idea. Because it's not only for things like this, but also just so many people with the day and age of social media. It's just people just want a space to be able to record whatever they want to talk about. I mean, that's a great idea. I wouldn't have thought about something like that in a...
Yep. We'll have those. We have also wellness spaces, whether that is, we've had some where it's kind of a sauna spa space. So sauna, steam shower.
What about cold plunges? That's like a huge thing nowadays.
We have yet to put it in a project, but I have one at my house just as of recently and love it.
Love it. Do you do it every day?
My husband does. I'm about every other day.
How many minutes are you up to?
He just dropped the temperature down, so I'm back down to 1 minute. I'd been at about 1.5 minutes to 2, but...
There you go. My fiance does like 4, and we'll go to the gym at the same time, and I'm like, how you doing over there? Yeah, that's awesome. That won't be me. I'm like, I'm still working up to that. I'll dip in for 1 minute. But that's super cool, and that's unique. That's something I haven't seen in any multifamily units yet, so that's really cool, especially the golf simulators. I feel like that's a huge thing that we're seeing in the luxury market as well, so that's super cool. And just the way of thinking about it differently as just another gathering space. So
the thing that people don't ever think about, that every project I feel like we're putting more and more space in for, is where is all the Amazon packages going? And this one, not necessarily a space, but how the spaces work and how the whole building works, like pedestrian wise and vehicular, that we're looking at is how does Uber Eats get there? Where is that temporary parking for your rideshare, for whomever that's coming over, that's just in and out quickly? So we've been looking at that in a lot of projects. We actually have one that we worked with the city to get designated spots outside of the entry for just, loading, unloading zones.
That's a genius idea. I used to live down on the plaza, and that was like the number one thing that was a huge issue, is I'd pull in at a certain time of the day, and it happened to be the same time that the UPS or the Amazon was coming, and it'd block right where I had to go to get through. That's so smart. But I wanted to ask you, along with that, also, it sounds like you guys are really deep thinkers into functionality, like we are. We want everything to be functional. But you guys are doing it on a different level. Again, like the problem solving externally, internally, kind of everywhere. It's cool that you guys put that much thought and care into designing these things so that they're fully functional for our community. What challenges have you seen, though, with this multifamily sector and designing for it?
I think one of the biggest challenges we are seeing is the sites that we're going on to. So there was a point in time where you could put a multifamily building anywhere, the market was in need of it, and it would rent great. And now we're looking more at these infill sites and some of these different locations that are a very tight site. They have a lot of slope to them. So you're not just going on this nice flat piece of ground. You're, going down a floor or digging in, doing different things like that. One of our projects has a cliff. We're at the lower end of the cliff, not up above it, but it's about 10, 15 feet from the building.
Oh, boy.
So, we're getting these, and again, it's that large puzzle. We're getting these challenging sites where what we really try to do is maximize these sites for our clients. Even silly things like putting trash where the slope is lower so that you don't lose a unit to get the height you need. So we really try to think of all of those parts and pieces together as we're going through this.
You guys are definitely maximizing your clients' money. So that's amazing. Their investment, sorry.
Well, and it's funny because I think this was always ingrained in me too, because early on, I had a single family client. They were absolutely amazing. And she was always about no wasted space. So their house had some unique angles to it. And we'd have like hidden closets, like broom closets or, different things like that. So she'd be like, I see this space. What do we do with it? And it's always been in my mind of no wasted space. How do we use each inch of this efficiently?
Well, it's so interesting you say that because currently with our company, we do a lot of single family homes as well. But there's so many people that have these large homes and they come to us and they're like, we just don't feel like it's an efficient use of space. Like there's so much room and it's an amazing house, but it could be used so much more efficiently. And like we would be using so much more space in our home if we had X, Y, or Z, or if this was functional. So it's definitely interesting seeing how that's been evolving because I feel like for a while, it used to be like the bigger, the better. It's super cool. It's amazing. And now people are like, okay, this is great. It's super wow. But how does it function for me on an everyday basis? So that's definitely interesting that it flows over to the multifamily sector as well as the single family.
And in people's units, absolutely. We look at what is the right size for the bathroom? What is the right size for the closet? Do we feel two people are going to be living here so they have dual sinks? Or is it one person? What are all of those things we're looking at? Because I feel like at times, the rental market was more people just right out of school, single, where now we're seeing more and more of it as retirees, they left someone who wants to travel but doesn't want, the upkeep of a yard and of all these other things. They're in a rental house or in a rental property, similar to, what we would see young, old, all age ranges are in the same development. So we have to think about that when we're developing and when we're designing for them, because this is, to me, it's not a home. It's a smaller, to me, it's not an apartment. It's a smaller home that you are living in. So how are we making it feel more like a home and less like an apartment?
Yeah, truly. That's awesome. Share with us what you're most excited about for BRR's future.
I would say probably what I'm most excited about at the moment is our project that is closest to getting ready to open, which is the Hudson.
Okay.
And actually, the Hudson is kind of the project that really brought me into BRR. So it's really kind of cool that it's almost ready to open.
Can you tell us how that project came about?
Absolutely. It was when I was at Studio A, I got a call from the developer, someone at the development group, and said, we want you to put together a proposal for us for a new multifamily project. And what I thought he was asking for is just a fee proposal. And I'm on my own, company of 3, and the proposal comes in, and it's basically, what is your thoughts for this building design? And there was a 3-week time frame, and I'm like, how am I going to do all of my work that we've got for our current clients, plus do this, come up with a design concept for this project and in the time frame and get everything done? I'd already been consulting with BRR on some other mixed-use developments, so I called up Mariah, and I was like, let's team on this. Let's see what we can come up with. I sat down with John Gripka and then Zach Samata, who were both our directors at design at the time, and the building just fell into place. It's a small site. It's actually the one I was telling you that's at the bottom of a cliff. It just
Convenient.
It just worked. Like everything worked, and we're like, do we look at other options? Do we look at other design ideas? We're like, no, this like works really well. Let's just go with it. And so we submitted our design proposal. We interviewed for the project and got it. And it was one of those things of, well, why are we 2 different companies? Why not, have Studio A, absorbed into BRR and then really just be able to work cohesively together on this project.
That's amazing. So when did this start? And did it start because there was a need for this multifamily unit in this area, or how did it come about?
So this was actually right at the beginning of COVID. I remember because our interview for it was during COVID via Zoom. But there was an older project on the site. It was Cambridge West Apartments, and there wasn't a lot of new development down, multifamily wise, down by KU Med.
Okay.
And so that's what they were looking at is, this is in the Rosedale neighborhood. They're looking at some revitalization and some enhancements to the Rosedale neighborhood. So that's really what our client was looking at there was what to bring into this development in this site.
So where did you guys pull all your design inspiration from for this project?
Actually, a lot of it came from different design moves that were going on down in KU Med. One of the buildings there has some kind of curved undulation of brick walls that come through, and it's glass up above. We looked at how are some ways we can do this. Our building, it's 5 stories of apartments over a parking garage, but the footprint for the apartments needed to be bigger than the footprint for the parking garage. And it's also very close to the street. So we were kind of looking at some things of how do we soften that? So we took some cues from those curved brick walls and did something similar with the curve of our walls to kind of play off of that, but it also really softened it. And it just, as you're walking down the sidewalk, has this really cool natural feel that you don't feel like there's this 7-story building right next to you.
Wow.
Because of how it kind of pushes and pulls at the ground level, kind of bringing in more pedestrian scale, and then has, a more, it's very rectilinear up above.
Have you guys had any challenges yet with working on the bottom of that cliff area?
Luckily we're at the bottom of the cliff and not at the top. So, but no.
That's good planning.
No, we haven't. It was, it worked quite nicely. A lot of it is just making sure everything, just looks well there. We don't have units that look out on a cliff. They're not like your unit is 5 feet from a cliff. There's a hallway there, with units looking into the courtyard on the other side. But one thing that was really cool, a purposeful design intent that we did is those units, there's a window. Like when you open the door to your unit, you look directly out a window at that cliffside. So you're not looking at a wall, and it kind of, it allows
beautiful.
the eye to move further out.
And opens up the space, especially when it's a smaller space. That's intentional in your design. What did the collaboration process look like between you and the developer?
Being that this one was a proposal where we kind of had the building already, a lot of it designed when we presented it to them, the collaboration was really on those interior spaces and how those were working and coming together. And a lot of it was on how do people and vehicles move around the site. This was huge and key at this project because it is a very tight site. We are coming in at a street light that you cannot move. So how are you entering into your building? Because you literally enter in under the building. So it has this really nice progression roundabout area there, similar to what you'd see in a high-end hotel.
Okay.
Other things that we were, kind of looking at and working with them on is just, and the collaboration is how are all those spaces being used? There's a nice community space on the top floor with gorgeous views of KU Med, looking out towards downtown. But we've got a lot of smaller units. So looking at that, they're like, we want a place where if someone wanted to, they could host a dinner party. So how can we make this space work for lots of small groups, but also a larger group to come in? So it was really looking at those things with that eye.
Yeah, that makes total sense because you want to maximize that for the people that are living there. Do you have a favorite design feature or element that's going to be featured in this project?
I think my favorite, there's 2. So my 2 favorite design features, one is this top floor terrace.
Oh.
When we were doing this project, when we were going out for kind of putting this all together before we ever showed it to the client, we actually took a drone up to that floor because we knew we wanted this top floor space and we wanted it to look out in downtown. So we actually took a drone up there and took photos.
Yeah.
And then in our renderings, we superimposed them behind it so that you had the real views that they would be seeing from that top floor. And it's cool as can be. That space is just amazing.
We might have to get some photos to overlay in this video, and so we can have people
Yes.
see it. Okay, you had another one. Did you have another?
Yes, I did. So this was one of those things too, where we, really were diving in deep to this. There's a leasing office that is kind of it's the progression of space. It's the first space you walk into. So we always have that as the first space, but in this one, you can drive by, you can be stopped at the stoplight and looking in and seeing into that. You could be walking in from the door on the street and into that space, or you could be walking into the door from the parking garage. So we looked at views, 3D views from all of this and said, what is the feature in this space that is going to be predominant at all of these locations? And it was the light fixture. So we worked, with our interior designer. We're like, it has to be good. It has to pop because this light fixture is going to be seen from everywhere. So it's also a 2-story volume. So it's got, it's actually a bunch of different fixtures that are hanging down at different heights.
Wow.
That it's in that space. So
That's such a unique way, though, to think about it, and thinking about the outside perspective and what's catching people's eyes. That's a super cool thing to be like, oh yeah, let's have that and have something that's going to attract people in. I love that. I love that idea. But I want to ask you, so when you're working with these developers, do you always do exactly what they want? Or how do you voice what you feel would need to be happening for the space versus maybe what they're requesting for the space?
Well, I would say the whole thing is a collaboration. So a lot of times we'll look at these in different fashions and look at, okay, it's also translating what they want. And we would do this a lot in single family homes too, when you had a husband and a wife looking at things with different eyes. So it's taking that and trying to help translate what they want. A lot of our clients we've been working with, on and off for years. So it's great because we know that, but we also know how to translate that to new clients. And sometimes it's just giving a couple different options and looking at those options and walking through, well, here's how this piece would work. And then others is like, okay, so this is option 1 and here's option 2, which might be completely different, but here's option 3 that's a merging of those 2 ideas. So, and a lot of times that's where we end up, is kind of that merging of the ideas. So they're getting those spaces and those items that they want, but we're also getting a little bit more of that design intent in.
Yeah.
But I've got to say, with some of our clients right now, what's great is they are developers that have an architectural background. So their eye on a lot of these things is really good.
That definitely helps. But do you feel that there's kind of a misconception with architects? I feel like there's some people that we've come across and they're like, oh, well, the architect does this initial first step and then they're kind of, out of the project. I feel like there's a lot of influence that an architect can have over a project. What and how do you feel architects influence over the entirety of projects, and in what ways?
Well, I mean, in my mind, we have to have influence over the whole project because of the fact that we want everything to work cohesively. So the landscape wants to be playing off of the building and also then playing off of the interior. So where a landscape architect and an interior designer might not be under our scope of work, we always want to work together with them because of the fact that you want there to be this progression, and you don't want, a building, if it looks very Italian on the exterior of it, you don't plan on coming in and seeing it just super modern black and white. So how does that pull from the exterior to the interior, whether it be materials or just design cues? So those are a lot of the things we will look at and work out through. And then we're obviously involved during construction and working with the contractor. We're out on site and just kind of making sure that the vision is coming to reality.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned materials. Have you seen the use of materials evolve in any sort of way for these multi-family units, or just in general with any sort of development?
We definitely will see some of that. I would love to see more. I'd love to see that push of things, and how can we get these different pops in? And sometimes it's not necessarily with new materials, but utilization of color and things of that nature. We've got a project that's over, actually right across from our office, which is really cool. I used to, my desk used to face the site. So it's literally right across from our office. That's in conceptual design. it's gone through entitlements with the city, but we've got some pops of blue into it just to add some more interest to the building.
Yeah, definitely. Can we let people know if ground has been broken yet on this development, or when they could expect to see this in the Kansas City area?
For which one? So
The Hudson.
Okay, yes, for the Hudson. So the Hudson, actually, yes, broken ground. It is actually almost done, and
wow.
they will be opening in June. So that one is so close. We're about just a couple weeks away from all the furniture and finishes going in. So I can't wait to see it just completed.
I know. I'm excited too, just hearing about it. I mean, I can't imagine going through that start to finish, the satisfaction you feel at the end of a project and being able to see it all tied together. I think that's super cool.
Yeah, because we've got that one at that phase, and then we're also got a project that's under construction fairly early on in the construction process, which is in Waldo area where the well used to be.
Oh, okay. Can you tell us about what's going on there?
Yes. So that one's 74 Broadway. It's another great project, a great client that we've worked with on that one, which is EPC.
Okay.
There's retail on the first floor, beautiful spaces for the leasing office and amenity zones, an area, and it is actually that we call the whiskey lounge. So it's kind of got this like darker, smokier feel to it. Just absolutely beautiful.
Super cool.
And it kind of steps down the hillside there as well. So really cool project.
Yeah. How did that one come about? Was there a specific need for that area for something, or just kind of presented itself?
That would actually probably be more question to the clients, because since we're not always involved in that need piece of it.
There you go.
But, there's nothing of this size that has been developed in that area.
Oh, cool. Do we have a projected date or anything for that? Any more info we could give?
I think it's January 2027.
Okay, I know I'm going to jump back a little bit because I know this one's kind of in the earlier stages of construction. So going back to the Hudson, that's almost finished. What challenges did you guys have to overcome throughout that project?
I think the biggest challenge that we had on that one is the pricing was coming in at the end of COVID, and there was inflation. So there was just a lot of collaboration with the contractor and with the contractor design team and owner of what can we do to keep all of the beautiful, amazing spaces that have been created and designed and the level of finish that we want to achieve, but bring it back into budget. Some of the things there was some like redesign of the parking garage to make it more efficient because there was rock in places we didn't realize there would be rock. And then use of materials, and where can we transition materials, and where can we allow the higher end, more expensive materials to really have their moment and that pop, and then where can we, still keeping great quality, bring it down to something different.
Definitely. So since the Hudson is going to be finished soon, if somebody was looking to maybe rent a unit there, how could they get in touch with you? And is there even any units available currently?
There are currently units available. Yes. I would say I am not the best person to get in touch with on that, although I have had people reach out to me on projects before.
You're not going to be in the leasing office?
No. But all of that is through their website, and you can see they've got some great renderings up there that really show the look and feel of the project. So even though, all the finishes aren't in, all of the furniture isn't in, you can see the quality of the units.
Perfect.
And it's all like the exact same everything.
Love it. We'll put the link to that website in our caption below, so you guys can check it out if you guys want. Besides the Hudson opening this summer, what else excites you about BRR Architecture?
I am excited for actually a project that just got city council approval today. So a little behind it when this actually airs.
That's okay.
But it's down by the plaza. So it's another 5-story, beautiful multifamily building over a parking garage, taking up an entire city block. And the clients, again, have been a dream to work with. Where I talk about the fact that I love the people at BRR, I also love our clients. This one was a huge collaboration. There were multiple design meetings, multiple people involved in those, and a lot of collaboration back and forth that got this building to being where it is today.
Okay, so what maybe key insights or something exclusive that you could tell us about this specific project?
There's still a lot of parts and pieces being designed, so I don't know if we have any of those key insights of that, but dual courtyards, so kind of a pass-through area between them, which will be really nice and give it a nice cozy feel. We're also making sure, because it is, a smaller site, it opens up. We try to open some of it up to like views towards the plaza and, the courtyard with the pool in it, having nice, making sure we're maximizing the sun angles. And one of the things that I really hope gets to stay, because the pool has an infinity edge that is on the side of the building.
Whoa.
There's no units right there, that we might be able to get a nice little water feature coming down the wall.
That would be absolutely epic. If we could see something like that happen, I would love that. I would go by just to go maybe check it out, even though I'm not renting, but I would love that. I think that's super cool. Could you give us any sort of insight how it works logistically and how there are any challenges that you guys have to overcome by working downtown and in the city where it is really busy and congested? Do you ever run into any difficulties?
Luckily, those difficulties are not mine to bear, but our contractors. But there absolutely are. And they look at things like, framing. There's a lot of, either wood or steel that goes into these buildings. And a lot of spaces have what they call their laydown yard, which is where they put all of the the materials. There's not room for all the materials. So they have to get really creative on, leasing and renting land nearby to house that, or also looking at ways to panelize the walls so they're built off-site and brought on-site, which also helps to speed up the process a little bit. Other things that they're looking at is how is construction traffic getting there? How is it not disrupting the neighbors? So we work hand in hand with the city, and our civil engineers work with the contractor and the city to really bring that all together and make sure, that two streets aren't both closed at the same time, or partially closed, especially because this is between Broadway and Warnell. You don't want both of those streets closed at the same time.
Definitely
so we
not.
really, they look at the staging, they look at how all of these parts and pieces have to come together because it is a tight site. But luckily, we've got some great contractors here in town who are up for that challenge.
Well, it sounds like you guys are really shaping Kansas City's landscape, and I'm super excited to see how it all turns out. And I'm so grateful for you to coming on and allowing us to be your first podcast that you make an appearance on. But you gave us so many amazing insights about the Kansas City market and the multifamily developments around town. Do you have any other predictions for where this is going to move towards? Or are you just going to say, stay tuned and keep an eye on our work?
I would say stay tuned and keep an eye with just how everything is going with tariffs and cost and all of these different things. It's always so hard to know, but I'm excited to see where it goes.
Awesome. And I think, did we forget to say the name of the second development that's going to be on the plaza?
It still doesn't quite have a name. It is known as Lure Plaza, or we call it the Plaza Apartments. Part of the whole process that we'll go through, or our client will go through, is the naming of the project. So that is still something they're working through.
That's super unique. So if people want to learn more about BRR and what you guys are up to, where can they find you?
Best place is our website, brrarch.com.
Perfect. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure having you, and I'm so excited for everybody to hear this episode and the super cool things that BRR has to do with Kansas City and their multifamily developments.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a great time talking with you, and I'm glad that my first podcast was not that scary.
Woohoo! Hear that, everybody? She's having fun. She's having fun. Okay, so thank you guys so much for watching Beyond the Blueprint, presented by MP360 Design and Build. I'm your host, Paige Moses, and as always, like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next time.